Hello. So as you go through the treasure hunt, every video is going to be a different topic. And this one is going to be about me. I want you guys to get to know me as a person, as a human being, because even though we look up to leaders and even though we look up to Facebook group people, what we fail to realize is the story that actually happened, as to why they are where they are, as to why they have the message they have, as to why they do the work that they're doing. And so I just want to give you guys the awareness of who I am. And then you can share with me about who you are. And I'm really excited about it. I love getting to know people. If you don't know me, I love getting to know people. So this for me is going to also be a really beautiful opportunity to get to know you. So please, 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 I hope you enjoy this video. If you have any comments or questions, you can drop them in the comments. That's what it's there for. Okay, so we're going to start all the way at the beginning. I was born September 24th, 1987, to a mom and dad, Oli and Keith. And I have one sister. She's 13 months and 2 days older than me. And she's now married with 3 children and a stay-at-home mom. Both my parents are entrepreneurs. My mother owned a flower shop and gift shop. My father owns a tile and marble installation business. We moved from North Jersey to South Jersey to a little place called Long Beach Island. And it's just north of Atlantic City and south of Seaside Heights. It's a really, really nice area. It's a very popular destination for people in New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, DC, to go in the summertime. So I grew up in a seasonal community, and it was small, where everybody knew everybody's business. Everybody was trying to compare to each other, even the kids. And the vast majority, all 18 kids, including myself, had parents who owned businesses in my grade. And I relentlessly got bullied from the day I entered elementary school in Long Beach Island till the day I graduated high school. And in that time, I did ballet, I did gymnastics, and I have since been retired in those areas. I did professional off-Broadway plays, also retired in that area, but I still do love dancing. I am also a retired tour manager and a retired sex worker. And during my childhood, bless my parents, they did the best they could. They financially provided everything my sister and I could have ever wanted. The way that they talked about money really shaped my money beliefs that I still get to work through today. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the treasure hunt. But the reality of it is that I didn't have a community whatsoever. My parents worked so hard, and it's kind of like the typical rich kid story. Like, your parents can financially provide, but they're never actually around. So we had babysitters until we got old enough, and then we stopped getting the babysitters because my parents were like, well, we're 5 minutes down the road. It's okay, because we lived in a small town. And so things weren't talked about in my house. Emotions were not communicated. There's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of working being done, and a lot of trying to provide everything. And so with that, on top of the town's expectation of keeping up with the Joneses and comparison and the cattiness and the, all of the stuff that we really grew up with, a lot of us who are watching this systematically, that is what we grew up with. So, knowing that, when I was 19, I had broken up with my high school sweetheart, and I started going on dates, and I actually had been raped. And that was a terrifying experience, and I didn't know how to tell my mom. I didn't know how to tell the police. I didn't tell anybody. And now I'm talking about it more because it needs to be voiced, because at the end of the day, I am not a victim, I am a survivor. And that's really something that I want a lot of people within this community to understand. You are not a victim. You get to be a survivor. You get to be an example. You get to show up for future generations. And as my teacher Yogi Bhajan would say, when a woman falls, generations fall. When a man falls, that's it. So think about that. We have so much mom stuff, dad stuff, and subconscious junk that we're going to get to clear out over the coming time in this course, and as you get to know me and as you stay in this group. So after that had happened, I had started stripping in strip clubs, and from there I eventually moved on to doing webcam work because I didn't like being touched. I didn't like the idea of lap dances. I loved dancing topless on stage all day long. Like, it was not a big deal, but that is not where you made the money. You made the money in the champagne room and in the lap dance room, and that's a really intimate experience that you're having. And as at the time, even strippers or sex workers, you are selling the idea of sex and titillation and those things. And having the experiences I had leading up to that point, I was comfortable in my body, and I genuinely believe it's just because of who I am. However, when it came to that intimacy with men, I struggled. I was challenged. I had the limiting belief of everybody just wants to fuck me, nobody wants to date me, I can't keep any boyfriends around. All my guy friends just wanted me as a fuck buddy. Whatever the thing was, I was in that perpetual cycle until I was 24 years old. And I had worked in a tattoo shop. From 20 to 24. And I was working in the strip clubs. And I worked as a webcam model. And I was trying to tour in the music industry. And that's when I started touring in my early 20s. In my very early 20s. And so what ended up happening was, as you have all of this trauma, all of the garbage, all of the negativity, all of the lack of communication, just piling and piling and piling. And it was one thing after another, and just this incessant feeling of not feeling good enough. And back in high school, when I was a ballerina, I also developed an eating disorder because I was constantly being told by the kids I went to school with and the ballet teachers that I wasn't good enough. I was never going to be thin enough. I was never going to be pretty enough. I talk like a man. You name it. The thing, like, just checked the boxes. Like, I had all the things. And so when we really realize and have the awareness of, oh, okay, like, this has to change. For me, that was one morning in the spring of 2012. My drinking had just gotten progressively worse. The detachment and the desire to not live had become progressively worse. And bigger and louder and just in my face. And that morning I woke up blackout drunk, thing of whiskey next to my bed nightstand, clearly hungover, and I looked over and there was vomit in the bed next to me. And I thought, fuck, I should not be alive. Shouldn't be alive right now. No. And that day was the day I decided to get sober. That was the day I decided to stop drinking. That was the day I decided that I wanted more for myself, because I remember a friend in high school telling me that's how one of his best friends actually died in high school. Heavy stuff. And so a couple months later, I go on tour. I get introduced to a 12-step meeting that was on the tour. And then I start going to meetings after tour. And so one of my first sponsors, she ever said to me, she said, Isla, she's like, I'm going to love you until you start loving yourself, and then I'm going to keep on loving you. And hearing that was so profound and so huge for me, because my family didn't communicate. My family only yelled and got drunk and made each other feel bad and talked about each other. Even my extended family, I did not grow up in an emotionally healthy thing. And so I have all this mom stuff that had come up. I have, all of the female relationship stuff I had all of the men stuff come up, the father issues come up. And when you're around women and you're in a community of women, this changes, but you have to be willing to shift your perception. That being said, after getting sober and having some time and really touring and getting my certification to teach yoga, I've been a yoga teacher for 6 years. I found Kundalini Yoga 3 years ago, and it has massively changed the way that I operate. It massively changes the way I do things. A lot of my teachings and the way that I coach is from the master himself, Yogi Bhajan. And my teacher, Guru Jagat. And so when we have these people who can teach us something worthwhile, I gravitate towards that because I love learning, I love growing, I love feeling good about myself. I love being happy, I love feeling worthy, I love feeling loved. And so with that being said, what I realized is that sexuality and sensuality is one of those things that I still wasn't comfortable with. Fast forward to doing all of the personal development, all of the work, realizing I wanted to be happier, I wanted to feel sexy, I want to feel empowered, I want men, I want a man to treat me like a queen, right? And I'm sure you do too. Or you're a woman. If you are in a same-sex relationship, or if you're non-binary or non-gender identifying, you want your partner to treat you like a queen or a king, whichever resonates more. And so I was in a hotel room. We're fast forwarding to about 11 months ago. I was meditating in a hotel room in Canada. And I heard very clearly, buy a plane ticket to Bali. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay, cool. I sat with it. It brought me just such an expansive joy that I decided to say, okay, let's do this. I bought the plane ticket to Bali. I bought the return flight home, which I clearly did not get on. And it went from spending 29 days in Bali to 9 months. And I have grown immensely. My business has shifted immensely. And the desire for this particular community of women that I'm trying to cultivate and grow and add culture and substance and empowerment and love to is one of my projects. And so I am naturally a very sensitive person. I am naturally very in tune with energy and feelings and emotions. I can feel emotions through reading somebody's text on the screen. Like, I know exactly what they're saying without getting caught up in my subconscious bullshit and head trash, as one of my other friends would say. And the reality of it is sometimes we do get clouded by that because our ego starts to be like, all right, let's see what this is about. I want to get into a fight. But when you look at it from the perspective of the other person, you can really feel the energy. And so by me doing more exploration and more yoga and more personal development and spending time in Bali, it really allowed me to zone in on what I found most important in my journey and what I really want to help create and cultivate here. Again, I'm sensitive. I can be emotional. I am a woman. Women are 16 times more receptive to everything. So when people say women are emotional, it's like, no, I'm just 16 times more receptive than you because you are a man. And that's okay. So allow that to just kind of wash over you, regardless of what gender you identify with. If you are, a woman or femme identifying, you are in this group. So I think it's really important to understand that. I think it's really important to know that we're all on a journey of wanting to feel loved and understood. And I have, in my 30 years of life, been through more than most people will ever go through. And some people have experienced far more than me, and there's no discrediting that. There's no devalidating that. But I hope to really help and impact as many women as I possibly can. And with that being said, I'm vegan. I quit coffee. I love dancing around the house in my underwear. I love feeling sexy. I love foreplay. I love making out. I love cooking. I love the physical touch aspect of being in a relationship. I love massages. I love flowers. I love beautiful things, beautiful pictures, beautiful words, beautiful blogs, beautiful videos, beautiful music. I love being creative. I love loving myself. I desire so deeply to really profoundly impact people in such a way that it feels like magic. Because I know for me, every day I wake up is a miracle. Every opportunity I get to live is a miracle. The fact that I just decided on a whim to pack up a bag and go to Bali is a miracle. The fact that when I no longer felt safe or something didn't energetically feel right for me in Bali and I knew it was time for me to go, I was able to reach out to an old friend from 10 years ago and be like, hey, I'm coming to Morocco. I'm going to be there in a week. Can you help me? She's like, I'll be there too. When we have these serendipitous synchronicities show up in our life, it is the universe working for us in our favor. It is the spiritual aspect of being a human being. We come to this planet to have human, tangible, physical experience. And when we stop and don't allow the magic to come in, we get so lost and so caught up in the not having and the not enoughness. And I felt a great deal of sorrow and suffering as a child because there was that underlying pit in my stomach of not enoughness. And so I hope you find this video to be very informative and insightful. And if you have any questions or anything that resonates with you, if there's anything you'd like to know more about in regards to me and who I am, feel free to drop it in the comments. That's what it's here for. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.